That's why, that's why. All right, beautiful people. Let's see. Yep. All right, beautiful people. All right. Just push this back a little bit. Okay. That's wobble, beautiful people. That's wobble. Happy Monday. We're live in both places now. 17. It's numbers. What am I doing? All right, beautiful people. It is Monday, February the 8th, 2021, day 72 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 741. We are in Numbers 19, 20, and 21, and then we'll hop right on over and pick up where we left off at yesterday in the Legends of the Jews. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up the Shema, Tiffany, Hager. Hey, greetings, greetings. Trina, Alicia, yeah, Uncle Nathaniel. All right. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God. And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive, as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as He has commanded us. All right, beautiful people. I am going to make a slight adjustment. You all don't need to do anything. Just continue showing up when you can. But what I'm going to do, because you know how I get started, and when I go live, I'm sitting here doing my little prep thing. I'm going to start 5 minutes earlier. So we will begin like we should have been doing. We're still 7:15 or 7:30, depending on, it's the week of the weekend, but I am going to come on 5 minutes earlier so I can make my adjustments and everything, so I'm not cutting into the reading time. You know, I should have been doing it from the beginning, right? You on time, you late, right? If you're early, you on time. So I'm going to start implementing what I know in regards to that. Shalom, shalom, Grand Rising, Mother, Linda Brown, Josiah Jones. Grand Rising, shalom, shalom. Let's check something real quick. Yeah, so I can get this done. I've been thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? It's only right that I do that. Okay. I should have been doing that, so forgive me, people. All right, so let's go ahead and hop on over here to the numbers. This way I can get my screens adjusted the way they need to be. Okay, beautiful people, we are in Numbers chapter 19. We are talking about the water of purification today. Hallelujah. Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Okay, let's move that over so everybody can have the same view. Okay, Numbers chapter 19. And Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, here is another legal requirement commanded by Yahuwah. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer, a perfect animal that has no defects and has never been yoked to a plow. Give it to Eleazar the priest, and it will be taken outside of the camp and slaughtered in his presence. Eleazar will take some of his blood on his finger and sprinkle it 7 times towards the front of the tabernacle. As Eleazar watches, the heifer must be burned, its hide, meat, blood, and dung. Eleazar the priest must then take a stick of cedar, a hyssop branch, and some scarlet yarn, and throw them into the fire where the heifer is burning. Then the priest must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. Afterward, he may return to the camp, though he will remain ceremonially unclean until evening. The man who burns the animal must also wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and he too will remain unclean until the evening. Then someone who is ceremonially clean will gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them in a purified place outside the camp. They will be kept there for the community of Israel to use in the water for the purification ceremony. This ceremony is performed for the removal of sin. The man who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must also wash his clothes, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until evening. This is a permanent law for the people of Israel and any foreigners who live among them. All those who touch a dead human body will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. They must purify themselves on the 3rd and 7th days with the water of purification. Then they will be purified. But if they do not do this on the 3rd and 7th days, they will continue to be unclean even after the 7th day. All those who touch a dead body and do not purify themselves in the proper way defile Yahuwah's temple, and they will be cut off from the community of Israel. Since the water of purification was not sprinkled on them, their defilement continues. This is a ritual law that applies when someone dies inside a tent. All those who enter the tent and those who were inside when the death occurred will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Any open container in the tent that was not covered with lids is also defiled. And if someone in an open field touches the corpse of someone who was killed with a sword or who died a natural death, or if someone touches a human bone or a grave, that person will be defiled for 7 days. To remove the defilement, put some of the ashes from the burnt purification offering in a jar and pour fresh water over them. Then someone who is ceremonially clean must take a hyssop branch and dip it into the water. That person must sprinkle the water on the tent, on all the furnishings in the tent, and on the people who were in the tent. Also, the person who touches a human bone, or touched someone who was killed or who died naturally, or touched a grave. On the 3rd and 7th days, the person who is ceremonially clean must sprinkle the water on those who are defiled. Then on the 7th day, the people being cleansed must wash their clothes and bathe themselves, and that evening they will be cleansed of their defilement. But those who become defiled and do not purify themselves will be cut off from the community, for they have defiled the sanctuary of Yahuwah. Since the water of purification has not been sprinkled on them, they remain defiled. This is a permanent law for the people. Those who sprinkle the water of purification must afterwards wash their clothes, and anyone who then touches the water used for purification will remain defiled until evening. Anything and anyone that a defiled person touches will be ceremonially unclean until the evening. All right, moving on to the next chapter. Numbers chapter 20. Moses strikes the rock. In the first month of the year, the whole community of Israel arrived in the wilderness of Zin and camped at Kadesh. While they were there, Miriam died and was burned. there was no water for the people to drink at that place, so they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. The people blamed Moses and said, "If we had only died in Yahuwah's presence with our brothers, why have you brought the congregation of Yahuwah's people into this wilderness to die along with our livestock? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us here to this terrible place? This land has no grain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates, and no water to drink." Moses and Aaron turned away from the people and went into the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down to the ground. And then the glorious presence of Yahuwah appeared to them. And Yahuwah said to Moses, "You and Aaron must take the staff and assemble the entire community. As the people watch, speak to the rock over there, and it will pour out its water. You will provide enough water from the rock to satisfy the whole community and their livestock." So Moses did as he was told. He took the staff from the place where it was kept before Yahuwah. Then he and Aaron summoned the people and came together at the rock. "Listen, you rebels," he shouted. "Must we bring to you water from this rock?" Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with the staff, and water gushed out. So the entire community and their livestock drank their fill. But Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I am giving you." Because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land I am giving them. This place was known as the waters of Meribah, which means arguing, because the people there of Israel argued with Yahuwah, and there he demonstrated his holiness among them. While Moses was at Kadesh, he sent ambassadors to the king of Edom with this message. Okay, hold on. So just in case y'all miss what happened, okay, Yahuwah, he got himself cut off because Yahuwah told him to speak to the rock. And instead of speaking to the rock, he struck the rock twice. And that's why Yahuwah got upset with him. He said, "You're going to lose all rights to see in the promised land now." He said, "Because I told you to speak to the rock so that the people could see and water would flow. But instead of speaking to the rock like I told you to, you struck the rock. And not only did you strike it once, you struck it twice." He said, "So you don't get to enter the promised land now." Why? He said, "Because this does not demonstrate my holiness among the people." Like our anger doesn't, like, we're to do what Yahuwah said just as he said to do it. Not in anger, not in any other fashion, but do it in a way and in a form and in a fashion how he said to do it. Because when we think we can act for him in anger, we're wrong. And we will quickly find ourselves in trouble if we're doing what Yahuwah has sent us to do in anger. That's what got Moses cut off. So whatever Yahuwah sends you to do, do it. Stand your post properly, like we are simply messengers, right? If Yahuwah sends you to do something, to tell somebody something, you're a messenger, right? You are simply to hand over the message. Just like the mailmen, they don't care what's in them letters. They simply taking them and putting them in the appropriate mailbox for the person who that message is for, right? They ain't going through reading, okay, what's this? No. They're simply doing their task. They're taking the mail and they're delivering it to the appropriate place without attitude, right? Because they're just standing their post. Stand the post. If Yahuwah say speak, you speak, don't strike, okay? Let there be a lesson for us all. All right, I'll read that again. As a matter of fact, okay, hold on. I'll just read the last. But Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me enough to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land that I am giving them." This place was known as the waters of Meribah, which means arguing, because there the people of Israel argued with Yahuwah, and there he demonstrated his holiness among them. While Moses was at Kadesh, he sent ambassadors to the king of Edom with this message. "This is what your relatives, the people of Israel, say. You know all the hardships we have been through. Our ancestors went down to Egypt, and we lived there a long time. and we and our ancestors were brutally mistreated by the Egyptians. But when we cried out to Yahuwah, he heard us and sent an angel who brought us out of Egypt. Now we were camped at Kadesh, a town on the border of your land. Please let us travel through your land. We will be careful not to go through your fields and vineyards. We won't even drink water from your wells. We will stay on the king's road and never leave it until we pass through your territory. But the king of Edom said, stay out of my land, or I will meet you with an army. The Israelites answered, we will stay on the main road. If our livestock drink your water, we will pay for it. Just let us pass through your country. That's all we ask. But the king of Edom replied, stay out. You may not pass through our land. With that, he mobilized his army and marched out against them with an imposing force. Because Edom refused to allow Israel to pass through their country, Israel was forced to turn around. The whole community of Israel left Kadesh and arrived at Mount Hor. There, on the border of the land of Edom, Yahuwah said to Moses and Aaron, the time has come for Aaron to join his ancestors in death. He will not enter to the land where I am giving the people of Israel, because the two of you rebelled against my instructions concerning the water at Meribah. Now take Aaron and his son Eleazar up Mount Hor. There you will remove Aaron's priestly garments and put them on Eleazar, his son. Aaron will die there and join his ancestors. So Moses did as Yahuwah commanded. The three of them went up Mount Hor together as the whole community watched. At the summit, Moses removed the priestly garments from Aaron and put them on Eleazar, Aaron's son. Then Aaron died there on the top of the mountain, and Moses and Eleazar went back down. When the people realized that Aaron had died, all Israel mourned for him 30 days. Last chapter for the day in Numbers chapter 21. Victory over the Canaanites. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that the Israelites were approaching on the road through Artharim. So he attacked the Israelites and took some of them as prisoners. Then the people of Israel made this vow to Yahuwah: if you will hand these people over to us, we will completely destroy all their towns. Yahuwah heard the Israelites' request and gave them victory over the Canaanites. The Israelites completely destroyed them and their towns, and the place has been called Hormah ever since. Then the people of Israel set out from Mount Hor, taking the road to the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom. But the people grew impatient with the long journey, and they began to speak against Yahuwah and Moses. Like, do they ever learn? Do they ever learn? Like, they had to know, one day our complaining gonna come for us, right? Like, I don't see why they haven't gotten that yet. And they began to speak against Yahuwah and Moses. Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die here in the wilderness? They complained. There is nothing to eat here and nothing to drink, and we hate this horrible manna. Oh my gosh. It's about to go from bad to worse. So Yahuwah sent poisonous snakes among the people, and many were bitten and died. And then the people came to Moses and cried out, we have sinned by speaking against Yahuwah and against you. Pray that Yahuwah will take away the snakes. So Moses prayed for the people. Then Yahuwah told him, make a replica of a poisonous snake and attach it to a pole. All who are bitten will live if they simply look at it. So Moses made a snake out of bronze and attached it to a pole. And anyone who was bitten by a snake could look at the bronze snake and be healed. And I believe this is where the medical field gets their logo, y'all. From this right here, this snake, right? This snake that's attached to this pole. The Israelites traveled next to Oboth and camped there. Then they went to Arbarim in the wilderness on the eastern border of Moab. From there, they traveled to the valley of Zered Brook and set up camp. Then they moved out and camped on the far side of the Arnon River in the wilderness adjacent to the territory of the Amorites. The Arnon is the boundary line between the Moabites and the Amorites. For this reason, the book of the wars of the Lord speaks of the town of Wahib in the area of Supa, and the ravines of the Arnon River, and the ravines that extend as far as the settlement of Ar on the border of Moab. And this is a book that's out there too, y'all. If y'all, some of you may have it, but some of you may not. But it's called the Book of the Wars of the Lord. From there, the Israelites traveled to Beer, which is the well where Yahuwah said to Moses, "Assemble the people, and I will give them water." There the Israelites sang this song: "Spring up, O well, yes, sing its praises. Sing of this well which princes dug, which great leaders hollowed out with their scepters and staffs." Then the Israelites left the wilderness and proceeded on through Mattanah, Nahaliel, and Bamoth. After that, they went into the valley of Moab, where Pisgah Peak overlooks the wasteland. The Israelites sent ambassadors to King Sihon of the Amorites with this message: "Let us travel through your land. We will be careful not to go through your fields and vineyards. We won't even drink water from your wells. We will stay on the king's road until we have passed through your territory." But King Sihon refused to let them cross his territory. Instead, he mobilized his entire army and attacked Israel in the wilderness, engaging them in battle at Jahaz. But the Israelites slaughtered them with their swords and occupied their land from the Arnon River to the Jabbok River. They went only as far as the Ammonite border because the boundary of the Ammonites was fortified. So Israel captured all the towns of the Amorites and settled in them, including the city of Heshbon and its surrounding villages. Heshbon had been the capital of King Sihon of the Amorites. He had defeated a former Moabite king and seized all his land as far as the Arnon River. Therefore, the ancient poet wrote this about him: "Come to Heshbon and let it be rebuilt. Let the city of Sihon be restored. A fire flamed forth from Heshbon, a blaze from the city of Sihon. It burned in the city of Ar in Moab. It destroyed the rulers of the Arnon heights. What sorrow awaits you, O people of Moab? You are finished, O worshippers of Chemosh. Chemosh have left his sons as refugees, his daughters as captives of Sihon, the Amorite king. We have utterly destroyed them. From Heshbon to Dibon, we have completely wiped them out, as far as Nophah and Mebah." So the people of Israel occupied the territory of the Amorites. After Moses sent men to explore the Jazer area, they captured all the towns in the region and drove out the Amorites who lived there. Then they turned and marched up the road to Bashan. But King Og of Bashan and all his people attacked them at Edrei. Yahuwah said to Moses, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have handed him over to you, along with all his people and his land. Do the same thing to him as you did to King Sihon of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon." And Israel killed King Og, his sons, and all his objects. Not a single survivor remained. Then Israel occupied their land. Listen, remember, King Og was a giant, y'all. And also, something while I was reading this, something just clicked for a moment. Like, we read it, but we don't pay attention to it. Listen to this, right? I don't know if y'all, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just picked it up. Okay, they're in the wilderness, right? So my whole mindset up until this point, right now, this time reading this, is like when you say wilderness, like desert, we got tents set up everywhere. And that is truly, in the sense of a word, the wilderness, right? And they were in a lot of desert places like that. But the wilderness, they're still described as being in the wilderness, even when they captured different cities outside of the promised land, right? They just clicked for some reason, because we literally just read this. They were in the wilderness, and while they were passing through, there were territories, and there were other cities and towns, territories, provinces throughout the wilderness that they were traversing, right, where they were traveling. That's what this just said. Like, I've never paid attention to that till just now, and it makes me think about something. I think about something Um, I think about the gathering of us from this last captivity, and I always wondered about where he said he's going to deal with us. He's going to deal with the rebel among us, but he also said that we will be in the wilderness of the people. And that part I don't quite understand yet, the wilderness of the people. But I think that makes a little bit more sense, because it was just them out there in a lot of the desert areas. But as they was traveling through, they were actually in towns, like the town of the Moabites and the Amorites. There were people there. There was a city built, businesses, homes, people there. They took over them because they wouldn't simply just let them pass through their territory. And Yahuwah allowed them. Well, when they came up to attack them, Yahuwah was with Israel, and they fought back, and they defeated them. And they settled in there. It said they settled in their towns. They were still in the wilderness, but they began to settle in some of these towns that were in the wilderness area, right? I really don't have anything more to say about that at the moment. But that just clicked. That's why I was reading. It's like, wait a minute, what? Like, I don't know, you know how you read over things where every time you read over it, you pull something else out different that's always been there the whole time. It's just you didn't recognize it until maybe like the fourth time. It's almost like the strategy of marketing, right? And with commercials. A lot of times people don't pay attention to stuff until they've seen it before them a few times, right? So even in marketing, they say that somebody has to see something at least 7 times before their consciousness will recognize it and pick it up. Like they're indirectly they'll see it and boom, oh yeah, I remember seeing that somewhere, and things start clicking. Oh, and then you become aware of it. It's like when you get a new vehicle. Like you don't really see the type of vehicle you have until you have that vehicle. You may have seen it, but then you begin to notice them everywhere once you're driving them. It's like your reticular activating system has been activated now to notice what you have in your possession, right? It's the same. It's like the same principle that's working here, but that was it. Perhaps a wilderness is not necessarily a physical location as much as a state of existence. It's possible. It's possible. I like I said, I've had a few thoughts about what the wilderness will actually be, right? It says that we're going to go back and meet Yahuwah at that same place where our ancestors were, right? But it says he's going to bring them into the wilderness of the people, meaning it's going to be people there already, right? It's going to, I don't want to get off into that, but I'm still looking into that. I'm trying to understand it just to make sure I understand it correctly. So, but yeah, that's possible. I think it's a bit of both. It's physical, actual, and sometimes I had, we're not going to get into it because that'll take us off for quite a while for today. So anyway, let's go ahead and hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews, y'all, so we can pick up where we left off at yesterday. And the last portion we was reading about was with Bezalel. Bring this up. All right, so we heard about the wisdom of Bezalel and how Yahuwah had chosen him to be pretty much the lead architect of the temple, right? Okay, and his wisdom was tested by Moses, and he found to be the proper fit to do this particular thing that Yahuwah wanted done. Okay, so we're in volume 3. The section is called The Ark with the Cherubim. And if you have the book that I have, it's page 290. All right. The very first thing that Bezalel constructed was the Ark of the Covenant, contrary to Moses' order, first to erect the tabernacle and then to supply its separate furnishings. He succeeded in convincing Moses that it was the proper thing to begin with, the ark, saying, "What is the purpose of this tabernacle?" Moses, that Yahuwah may let his Shekinah rest therein, and so teach the Torah to his people Israel. Bezalel, where dost thou keep the Torah? Moses, as soon as the tabernacle shall have been complete, we will make the ark for keeping the Torah. Bezalel, O our teacher Moses, It does not become the dignity of Torah that in the meantime it should lie around like this. Let us rather first make the ark and put the Torah into it, and then continue with the erection of the tabernacle. For the tabernacle it exists only for the sake of the Torah. Well, this is beautiful. Moses saw the justice of this argument, and Bezalel began his work with the construction of the ark. In this, he followed the example of Yahuwah, who created light before all the rest of the creation. So Bezalel first constructed the ark that contains the Torah, the light that illuminates this world and the other world, and only then followed the rest. The ark consisted of 3 caskets, a gold one, the length of hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. It's a few typos in here. Sometimes the sentences throw me off because it doesn't seem to, it looks like a word is misplaced. Okay, I think that's supposed to be the, not then. Okay. The ark consisted of 3 caskets, a gold one, the length of the spans, and a fractional part. Within this one, a wooden one, 9 spans long, and within this wooden one of gold, 8 spans long, so that within and without the wooden was overlaid with golden caskets. The ark contained the 2 tables of the 10 Commandments, as well as the ineffable name and all his other epithets. 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 Sometimes I feel like I'm in the 1st grade. I'm sorry, y'all. I think it's epithets. Okay. The ark was an image of the celestial throne and was therefore the most essential part of the tabernacle, so that even during the march it was spread over with a cloth wholly of blue, because this color is similar to the color of the celestial throne. It was through the ark also that all the miracles on the way through the desert had been wrought. 2 sparks issued from the cherubim that shade the ark, and these killed all the serpents and scorpions that crossed the path of the Israelites, and furthermore burned all thorns that threatened to injure the wanderers on their march through the desert. The smoke rising from these scorched thorns, moreover, rose straight as a column and shed a fragrance that perfumed all the world, so that the nations exclaimed, "Who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchant?" Apart from this ark, which was kept in the tabernacle, they had another ark, in which were contained the tables broken by Moses, which they carried with them whenever they went to war. The ark that Bezalel constructed was also used again in Solomon's temple, for he retained the ark used by Moses in the tabernacle, even though all the other furnishings of the temple were fashioned anew. It remained there up to the time of the destruction of the temple by Nebuchadnezzar, when it was concealed under the pavement of the wood house, that it might not fall into the hands of the enemy. This place remained a secret for all time. Once a priest, noticing about the wood house that something lay hidden under it, called out to his colleagues, but was suddenly stricken dead before divulging the secret. On the ark were the cherubim with their faces of boys, and their wings. Their number was 2, corresponding to the 2 tables and to the 2 sacred names of Yahuwah, Adonai and Elohim, which characterize him as benevolent and powerful. The face of each cherub measured 1 span, and the wings extended each 10 spans, making 22 spans in all, corresponding to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. It was from between the 2 cherubim that Yahuwah communed with Moses, for the Shekinah never wholly descended to earth any more than any mortal ever quite mounted into heaven. Even Moses and Elijah stood a slight distance from heaven, for even the heavens are Yahuwah's, but the earth hath he given to the children of men. Therefore Yahuwah chose the cherubim that were 10 spans above the earth as the place where the Shekinah betook itself to commune with Moses. The heads of the cherubim were slightly turned back like that of a scholar, bidding his master farewell. But as a token of Yahuwah's delight in his people Israel, the faces of the cherubim, by a miracle, looked to one another. Whenever Israel were devoted to Yahuwah, yea, even clasped one another like a loving couple. During the festivals of the pilgrimage, the priests used to raise the curtain from the Holy of Holies to show the pilgrims how much their God loved them, as they could see the embrace of the 2 cherubim. That's sweet. A twofold miracle came to pass when the cherubim were brought into the temple by Solomon. The 2 staves that were attached to the ark extended until they touched the curtain, so that the 2 protuberances, like a woman's breast, became visible at the back of it, and the wings of the cherubim furthermore extended until they reached the ceiling of the Holy of Holies. All right, we're going to the next section, the table and the candlestick. While the number of the cherubim was the same in the temple as in the tabernacle, Solomon had, on the other hand, 10 tables set up in the temple in place of the one fashioned by Moses. This was because the one table sufficed to bring sustenance to Israel so long as they were maintained by manna in the desert. But as the demand for food was greater after they settled in the promised land, Solomon had 10 tables set up. But in the table also did the table of Moses retain its ancient significance, for only upon it was the showbread placed, and it stood in the center, whereas the tables fashioned by Solomon stood 5 to the south and 5 to the north. For from the south came the dews of blessing and the rains of plenty, while all evil comes from the north. Hence Solomon said, the tables on the south shall cause the rains of plenty and the dews of blessing to come upon the earth, while the tables on the north side shall keep off all evil from Israel. Moses had great difficulty with the construction of the candlestick, for although Yahuwah had given him instructions about it, he completely forgot these when he descended from heaven. He hereupon betook himself to Yahuwah once more to be shown, but in vain, for hardly had he reached the earth when he again forgot. When he betook himself to Yahuwah the 3rd time, Yahuwah took a candlestick of fire and plainly showed him every single detail of it, that he might now be able to construct the candlestick for the tabernacle. When he found it still hard to form a clear conception of the nature of the candlestick, Yahuwah quieted him with these words, go to Bezalel, he'll do it right. Like, boy, it's like, go get me my book from off my desk upstairs. You go up there. Wait, what? What you say? Go get my book. It's like, you remember, it reminds me of that, right? And he told him each time he went back up, the last time he said, look, go tell Bezalel, he'll do it right. And indeed, Bezalel had no difficulty in doing so, and instantly executed Moses' commission. Moses cried in amazement, Yahuwah showed me repeatedly how to make the candlestick, yet I could not properly seize the idea, but thou, without having it shown to thee by Yahuwah, could fashion it out of my own fund of knowledge. Truly dost thou deserve thy name Bezalel in the shadow of Yahuwah, for thou dost act as if thou hadst seen in the shadow of Yahuwah while he was showing me the candlestick. It's like, wait, was you in the room? Was you hiding in the closet? How do you know? Right? That's what Bezalel means, right? What did it say? in the shadow of Yahuwah, because he could pick it up just like that. He didn't even have to be there. You could just relate to him what Yahuwah said, and he would immediately get it, like he himself had been there and heard the instructions word for word, right? May we all be like Bezalel. May Yahuwah bless us in that fashion. The candlestick was later set up in the Temple of Solomon, and although he set up 10 other candlesticks, still this one was the first to be lighted. Solomon chose the number 10 because it corresponds to the number of words revealed on Sinai, and each of these candlesticks had 7 lamps, 70 in all, to correspond to the 70 nations. For while these lamps burned, the power of these nations was held in check. But on the day on which these lamps were extinguished, the power of the nations increased. The candlestick stood toward the south, and the table to the north of the sanctuary. The table to indicate the delights of which the pious would partake in paradise, which lies to the north. The light of the candlestick to symbolize the light of the Shekinah, for in the future world there will be but one delight, to gaze at the light of the Shekinah. On account of its sacredness, the candlestick was one of the 5 sacred objects that Yahuwah concealed in the destruction of the temple by Nebuchadnezzar, and that he would restore when his loving kindness would erect his house and temple. These sacred objects are the ark, the candlestick, the fire of the altar, the Holy Spirit of prophecy, and the cherubim. Make me think about something. I'm gonna keep on reading, right? And we definitely know that they haven't found the Ark of the Covenant. If y'all don't know, people, ain't nobody found it yet. The whole world would know. The whole world would know when the Ark is uncovered. Like, I have no doubts about that. All right, the next section we at 41. Okay, the altar. One of the most miraculous parts of the tabernacle was the altar. For when Yahuwah bade Moses make him an altar of shittim wood and overlay it with brass, Moses said to Yahuwah, O Lord of the world, thou badest me to make the altar of wood and overlay it with brass, but thou did not bid me to have a fire kept burning upon the altar continually. Will not the fire destroy the overlay? Will not the fire destroy the overlay of brass and then consume the wood of the altar? Yahuwah replied, Moses, thou judgest by the laws that apply to men, but will these also apply to me? Behold, the angels that are of burning flame. Beside them are my storehouses of snow and my storehouses of hail. Doth the water quench their fire, or doth their fire consume the water? Behold, also the Hayat that are of fire. Above their heads extend a terrible sea of ice that no mortal can traverse in less than 500 years. Yet doth the water quench their fire, or doth their fire consume the water? For I am Yahuwah, who maketh peace between these elements in my high places. But thou, because I have bidden thee to have a fire kept burning upon the altar continually, art thou afraid that the wood might be consumed by the fire? Dead things come before me and leave me imbued with life. Ooh, thank that. Dead things come before me and leave me imbued with life, and thou art afraid that the wood of the altar might be consumed? Thine own experience should show by now have taught thee better. Thou did pierce the fiery chambers of heaven, and thou did enter among the fiery host on high. Yea, thou didst even approach me, that am a consuming fire. Surely thou shouldest then have been consumed by fire, but thou wert unscathed, because thou did go into the fire at my command. No more shall the brass overlay of the altar be injured by the fire, even though it be no thicker than a denarium. In the words, dead things come before me and leave me imbued with life, Yahuwah alluded to the three following incidents. The rod of Aaron, after it had lain for a night in the sanctuary, brought forth buds and bloomed blossoms, and even yielded almonds. The cedars that Hiram, the king of Tyre, sent to Solomon for the building of the temple, as soon as the incense of the sanctuary reached them, thrilled, greened anew, and throughout centuries bore fruit, by means of which the young priests sustained themselves. Wait, hold on. What? You mean the walls in the temple had fruit on them constantly? Let me read this again, my G. Hold on. In the words, dead things come before me and leave me imbued with life, Yahuwah alluded to the three following incidents. The rod of Aaron, after it had lain for a night in the sanctuary, brought forth buds and bloomed blossoms, and even yielded almonds. The cedars that Hiram, king of Tyre, sent to Solomon for the building of the temple, as soon as the incense of the sanctuary reached them, thrilled green anew, and throughout centuries bore fruits, by means of which the young priests sustained themselves. Not until Manasseh brought the idol into the Holy of Holies did these cedars wither and cease to bear fruit. Wow. The third incident to which Yahuwah alludes was the stretching of the staves of the ark, when Solomon set them in the Holy of Holies, and the staves, after having been a part of the ark for 480 years, suddenly extended until they touched the curtain. Solomon erected a new altar for offerings, but knowing how dear to Yahuwah was the altar erected by Moses, the brazen altar, he at least retained the same name for his altar. But in the following words, it is evident how much Yahuwah prized the altar erected by Moses, for he said, to reward Israel for having had a fire kept burning upon the altar continually, I shall punish the kingdom laden with crime by fire that shall not be quenched night or day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. Beside the brazen altar, there was also one of gold, which corresponded to the human soul, while the former corresponded to the body. And as gold is more valuable than brass, so also is the soul greater than the body. But both altars were used daily, as a man must also serve his maker with both body and soul. Hold on, y'all. Let me go back. This is just something just happened in my mind when I read this. Let me read that again. Hold on. Besides the brazen altar, there was also one of gold, which corresponds to the human soul, while the former corresponded to the body. And as gold is more valuable than brass, so also is the soul greater than the body. But both altars were used daily, as man must also serve his Maker with both body and soul. On the brazen altar, sacrifices were offered, and as the body of man likewise is nourished by food. But on the golden altar, spices and sweet incense, for the soul takes delights in perfumes only. The materials employed for the construction of the tabernacle, the skins and the wood, were not of the common order. Yahuwah created the animal Tehash exclusively for the needs of the tabernacle. We read about this animal in the beginning, right? And remember, because when it mentioned it, it said Solomon used these during the building of the tabernacle, which we're also going to read again when we get to volume 4 into the section about Solomon. Yahuwah created the animal Tehash exclusively for the needs of the tabernacle, for it was so enormous that out of one skin could be made a curtain 30 cubits long. This species of animal disappeared as soon as the demands of the tabernacle for skins were satisfied. The cedars for the tabernacle also were obtained in no common way, for whence they should have gotten cedars in the desert. They owed these to their ancestor Jacob. When he reached Egypt, He planted a cedar grove and admonished his sons to do the same, saying, "You will in the future be released from bondage in Egypt, and Yahuwah will then demand that you erect him a sanctuary to thank him for having delivered you. Plant cedar trees, then that when Yahuwah will build you to build him a sanctuary, you may have in your possession those cedars required for its construction." Now that is what you talk about. What's the word I want to use? It's a word I'm looking for. Like it's like planning way ahead for your children's future. Now that's I can't remember the word. But he planned way ahead, way ahead. Listen, when he reached Egypt, let's see, hold on. They owed these to their ancestor Jacob. When he reached Egypt, he planted a cedar grove and admonished his sons to do the same thing, saying, "You will in the future be released from bondage in Egypt, and Yahuwah will then demand that you erect him a sanctuary to thank him for having delivered you. Plant cedar trees, then that when Yahuwah will bid you build him a sanctuary, you may have in your possession the cedars required for its construction." His sons acted in accordance with the bidding of their father, and upon leaving Egypt, took along the cedars for the anticipated erection of the sanctuary. Among these cedars was also that wonderful cedar out of which was wrought the middle bar in the midst of the boards that reached from end to end, and which Jacob took with him from Palestine when he emigrated to Egypt, and then left to remain among his descendants. Hold on. Among these cedars was also that wonderful cedar out of which was wrought the middle bar in the midst of the boards that reached from end to end, and which Jacob took with him from Palestine when he emigrated to Egypt, and then left to remain among his descendants. When the cedars were selected for the construction of the tabernacle, they intoned a song of praise to Yahuwah for this distinction. But not all the 24 species of cedar might be used for the tabernacle. Nay, even the 7 most excellent among them were found worthy, but only the species shittim might be used. For Yahuwah, who foresees all, knew that Israel would in the future commit a great sin at Shittim, and therefore ordained that shittim wood be used for the tabernacle. Wow. To serve as atonement for the sin committed at Shittim. Shittim furthermore signifies follies. Hence Israel were to construct the place of penance for their folly, and adorn the golden calf out of shittim wood to atone for this folly. And finally, the letters of the word shittim is composed. And finally, the letters of which the word shittim is composed stand for shalom, peace, toba, good, Yeshua, salvation. Yeshua means salvation. It's not a name. Yeshua means salvation. It's the word for salvation. And Mahila, forgiveness. The boards that were made for the tabernacle out of shittim wood never decayed, but endure in all eternity. All right, so we're going to go to this next section. Okay, we're going to read about the significance of the tabernacle. The symbolic significance of the tabernacle. The separate parts of the tabernacle had each a symbolic significance. For to all that is above, there is something corresponding below. There are stars above, but likewise below, where a star shall come out of Jacob. Yahuwah has his host above, and likewise below. His people Israel, the host of Yahuwah. Above there are Ophanim, and on earth likewise there is an Ophan. Above, Yahuwah has cherubim, and likewise below in the sanctuary of Israel. Yahuwah hath his dwelling above, but likewise below. And lastly, Yahuwah has stretched out the heavens above like a curtain, and below in the sanctuary were curtains of goat's hair. The number of curtains also correspond to those in heaven, For just as there are 11 upper heavens, so also were there 11 curtains of goat's hair. The size of the tabernacle was 70 cubits, corresponding to the 70 holy days celebrated annually by the Hebrews, to wit, 52 Sabbaths, 7 days of Passover, 8 of tabernacles, and a day for each Pentecost, the Day of Atonement, and the New Year's Day. The number of vessels amounted to 70 also, and likewise Yahuwah, Israel, and Jerusalem bear 70 names. And as correspondingly in the time between the building of the first and the second temple, there were 70 consecutive Sanhedrin. Like the tabernacle, so the altar too had its symbolic significance. I'm sorry, y'all. It seemed like it's tongue twisters today. Its length and its breadth were 5 cubits each, corresponding respectively to the 5 commandments on the 2 tables of the law. Its height was 3 cubits, corresponding to the 3 deliverers Yahuwah sent to deliver Israel from Egypt: Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. It had 4 horns in the corners thereof, to atone for the sins of the people that on Sinai received 4 horns: the horn of the Torah, the horn of the Shekinah, the horn of priesthood, and the horn of the kingdom. In the tabernacle, as later in the temple, gold, silver, and brass were employed, but not iron. Yahuwah meant to indicate by the exclusion of iron that in the future time the gold in Babylon, the silver Media, and the brazen Greece would be permitted to bestow the gifts on the new temple, but not the iron Rome. It is true that Babylon also destroyed the sanctuary of Yahuwah, like Rome, but not with such fury and such thoroughgoing wrath as Rome, whose sons cried, raise it, even to the foundations thereof. And for this reason, Rome may not contribute to the Messianic temple. And as Yahuwah will reject the gifts of Rome, so also will the Messiah, to whom all the nations of the earth will have to offer gifts. Egypt will come with her gifts, and although the Messiah will at first refuse to accept anything from the former taskmaster of Israel, Yahuwah will say to him, the Egyptians granted my children an abode in their land. Do not repulse them. Then the Messiah will accept their gift. After Egypt will follow their neighbor, Ethiopia, with her gifts, thinking that if the Messiah accepted the gifts from the former taskmasters of Israel, he will also accept gifts from her. Then the Messiah will also accept Ethiopia's gifts. After these 2 kingdoms will follow all others with their gifts and will be accepted, save those from Rome. This kingdom will be sorely disappointed, for depending upon their kinship with Israel, they will expect kind treatment from the Messiah, who had graciously received the other nations not connected with Israel. But Yahuwah will call out to the Messiah, roar at this monster that devours the fat of nations, that justifies its claims for recognition through being a descendant of Abraham by his grandson Esau, the nation that forgives all for the sake of money, that kept Israel back from the study of the Torah and tempted them to the deeps that are in accord with the wishes of Satan. All right, that was the end of that section. So let's go ahead. We're going to read about the priestly robes, and then we'll stop there. Okay. Simultaneously with the construction of the tabernacle and its vessels were fashioned the priestly robes for Aaron and his sons. It was at this time that Yahuwah had made known Aaron's appointment to the office of high priest, saying, go and appoint a high priest, Moses. Out of which tribe? Yahuwah. Out of the tribe of Levi. Moses was most happy upon hearing that the high priest was to be chosen out of his tribe, and his joy was increased when Yahuwah added, appoint thy brother Aaron as high priest. This choice of Aaron was, of course, also a disappointment to Moses, who had hoped Yahuwah would appoint him as high priest, but Yahuwah had designed this dignity for Aaron to reward him for his pious deeds when Israel worshipped the golden calf. For when Moses returned from Sinai and saw the calf fashioned by Aaron, he thought his brother was no better than the rest of the people, and had, like them, devoted himself to idolatry. But Yahuwah knew that Aaron's participation in the construction of the calf was merely due to the pious motive of delaying the people until Moses should return. And he even then said to Aaron, I am fully aware of thy motive, and as truly as thou livest, I shall appoint thee as warden over the sacrifices that my children offer me. In consideration of Moses' feelings, Yahuwah gave into his hands the appointment of Aaron, saying to him, I might have installed thy brother as high priest without having informed thee of it, but I relinquish his appointment to thee, that thou mayest have an opportunity of showing the people thy humility, and that thou dost not seek this high office for thyself. At Yahuwah's bidding, Aaron and his 2 sons were now chosen as priests, and moreover, not for a limited period, but Aaron and his house were invested with the priesthood for all eternity. As soon as these were installed as priests, Moses set to work to instruct them thoroughly in the priestly laws. Yahuwah ordered the following 8 garments as Aaron's garb: coat, breeches, mitre, girdle, breastplate, ephod, robe, and golden plate. But his sons needed only the first 4 garments. All these garments had expiatory virtues, and each expiated a definite sin. The coat atoned for murder, the breeches for unchastity, the mitre for pride. You know what a mitre is? You heard that song, Mitre Down? It's like it's like a band, like a scarf. They take, that's a mitre, or a mitre. I call it mitre. Okay. I only call it mitre because I heard the song. I really like it. Mitre Down. Okay. Hold on. Let me go back to my spot. Okay. The mitre for, let me go back here. The coat atoned for murder, the breeches for unchastity, the mitre for pride, the girdle for theft, the breastplate for partial verdicts, the ephod for idolatry, the bells on the robe for slander, and the golden plate for effrontery. The breastplate and the ephod were set with precious stones, which were the gifts of the noble to the sanctuary. Though to be exact, they were in reality a gift from Yahuwah, for precious stones and pearls had rained down with the manna, which the noble among Israel had gathered up and laid away until the tabernacle was erected, when they offered them as gifts. The ephod had only 2 precious stones, one on each shoulder, and on each of these stones were engraved the names of the 6 tribes in the following order: Reuben, Levi, Issachar, Naphtali, Gad, Joseph on the right shoulder piece, Simeon, Judah, Zebulun, Dan, Asher, Benjamin on the left shoulder. The name of Joseph was spelled Jehoshaphat, a device by which the 2 stones had exactly the same number of letters engraved upon them. On the breastplate were 12 precious stones, on which the names of the 3 patriarchs preceded those of the 12 tribes, and at the end were engraved the words, all these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And we are going to stop right there, y'all. And we're going to pick the rest of this up. We got the stones in the breastplate, the completion of the tabernacle. Okay, yeah. We'll just keep going because we're going to be on the tabernacle for a couple more days, as it's giving more detail of all this stuff. Ooh, this day. Gifts of the princess. Ooh, the gifts is a long one. That might be the only thing we read that day. Okay. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. We started on page 290, and we just ended on page 294. Let me look at that note real quick if I get to far my day. 294. Okay, and we read Numbers 19, 20, and 21, y'all. So It is Monday, February the 8th, 2021, day 72 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 741. Remember that is without the Sabbath days added and the feast days, Sabbath days added. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and go to the blessing. And if you missed it earlier, I said I'm going to do a small little adjustment. Nothing that you have to do. Y'all just keep showing up if you can at the right time. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to come on 5 minutes earlier. So I'll be here like 7:10. And I'll use those first 5 minutes just to kind of check everything. Get all my notes and stuff written. So we can start directly at 7:15. All right. So I'm going to make a habit of that. That way we can use all the time designed for reading to do just that. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, y'all know what the first 21 verses is? It's the Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I'm going to run through here. I don't think I really saw any questions for today. So with that being said, party planning. Oh, yeah, party planning, but that wasn't the word I was looking for. It was something else. Just like, you know how parents, you sit there and you start setting up your 401ks or your IRAs and stuff. You just planning for the future and proper tax planning so that your children and your posterity coming after you will benefit from the decisions that you made today. Like a lot of things that we plant or things that we do that they tend to grow slowly, but over the years will yield great dividends to our posterity, our children, and our children's children. Is one of those type things. I was looking for that word, like, family planning, or it's another word I'm looking for that. But that's what I was referring to. Doing something now that future generations can reap the benefit of, right? Because Joseph, he was had been in a grave, right? Before the temple was erected, right? He actually planted the trees that were the walls in the temple that King Solomon built. Like, that's a faithful family planning man right there. So, but that's what I was looking for. I'm sure the word will come back to me throughout the day, but it was a word in regards to that planning for your estate and stuff like that is what they was doing. But there's another word, but I'm sure it'll come to me throughout the day. But anyway, y'all, that's it. We're done for the day. Ain't no questions or nothing. We out of here. All right, love y'all. See y'all bright. Yeah, leaving an inheritance. But it was another word that I was looking for. What you're doing, you're leaving the hands, but it's like a preparation word, that I was looking for. All right, y'all. But that's it. I'm done. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I'll be here on post 5 minutes early, preparing, checking my camera, adjusting the pages, and doing all that stuff so we can get started. All right, beautiful people. That's it. Love you. Bruce.